Hi everyone, this is Glenn from MR2 Australia. I was just about to do my latest video of my track work at Eastern Creek and my son said, "Dad, your videos are boring, do something different." So I'm doing something different. I will show you some video of a lap later on, but for now I'm going to show you a few new things that I've done to the car since I last did a tour. So a few obvious things, the flares. I've fitted much bigger wheels on it now. I've got 9-inch wheels on the front and 11-inch on the rear. So they're 295 tyres on the rear and 245 on the front. You can't fit them on a normal MR2 without cutting the guards away. It's now got carbon fibre doors. I think last time it already had the carbon fibre rooftop, target tops. It already had the carbon fibre boot lid. This is a genuine Ask Sport engine cover. They're very rare, but you can get reproduction ones these days which look exactly the same, and I think you can even get them with carbon fibre. But this one's fiberglass, but it's good enough. I've also cut away the rear bar, and the idea for that is to help with aerodynamics. There will eventually be a diffuser added to the back of the car, but cutting away the rear bar has enabled it to not be a parachute, because as you can imagine, the rear bar used to sit right down here. Air would come in here and sit up in here, get forced up underneath there and create lift, which is the opposite of what you want happen. The front end now has some better cooling. As you can see, there's some big holes cut into the bonnet, and if you look down in here, you can see the fans quite clearly. So the front of the car has been cut away to allow the air to pass through and then out the bonnet, which also creates downforce. All of the air that comes into the front goes through the radiator and then out through the bonnet. Nothing goes underneath the car anymore, which is a standard configuration with MR2s. And as you can probably expect, air going underneath the car creates lift, which is not so good when you're doing more than 180 kilometers an hour. You may notice there's a splitter on there as well. That's a Nomex splitter, which is like a cardboard honeycomb sort of core with carbon fibre sheets on each side, on the top and the bottom. It's very, very strong. Although you can see there's a sticker there that says no step. Yeah, you can step on there, it won't hurt it. It's very, very, very strong. Another reasonably new addition is these polycarbonate windows. So I've got the side windows done, the rear quarter windows and the rear windows polycarbonate as well, which gives a weight advantage. Now looking at the inside of the car, I've got a couple of analog gauges here. One's for oil pressure, one's for oil temperature, and the other one's for water temperature. I've also got an MXL dash there which tells me a few more details. I do like to have a couple of analog gauges there as well. There's a battery cut-off switch here. When you turn that off, it shuts the engine off even if it's running. Got an ignition switch here and a push button start. Fire extinguisher is down here, just in case something goes wrong. And there's the ECU, which is a Haltech Elite 1500. And down there is a smaller box, which is the wideband controller, wideband oxygen sensor controller. And there's my seat, a couple of rips in there, but that doesn't matter. It's a race car, it's not a show car. Nice new wheel, some gloves up there on the dash. And we've got a window net there as well, which will help if there was ever a crash, so my head and arm doesn't go out the window and come in contact with walls and all that sort of thing. So that's another safety thing. This little doovalaki here, if I pull that while the engine's running, the engine stops, which is a safety thing as well. Now let's have a look at what's under this engine cover. And here's the engine. It is a 5S GTE, which is a 2.2 litre, using the 5S FE block with a Generation 2 3S GTE head. This car currently makes around 490 horsepower at the flywheel, which is about 320 kilowatts at the wheels. It's not a huge amount of power, but I'm still getting used to it, and there is room to run more boost and increase the power output once I'm used to it, because it's a little bit of a handful at times. There's lots of shielding in here. Lots of people have commented on my use of checker plate. I like checker plate because it provides a little bit of extra stiffness. I know it doesn't necessarily look great, but this is a race car after all. It's not a show car. I've got quite a lot of shielding on here. It's really to protect the things that shouldn't get hot from the radiant heat, because that's the biggest enemy on a turbo car. It's not the ambient heat of the air that is the problem, it is the radiant heat. So anything that's in direct line of sight with all the hot stuff is going to burn if it's made out of plastic or rubber or anything like that. So I've tried to shield as much of it as possible. Had a couple of issues on a couple of previous track days where I had a slight oil fire, and you can see there's a whole bunch of white stuff around here, which was caused from the powder from the fire extinguisher, which is then subsequently baked onto the exhaust. If anybody knows how to get that stuff off without wrecking the ceramic coating underneath, then please post in the comments and let me know, because I can't get the bloody stuff off. It's horrible. Now if you look down here, you can see that there is an oil cooler and also an external oil filter. So that's a Z9 filter, and I'm not sure of the size of the core of the oil filter, but that helps the thing to cool down. And on the cam cover here, you can see there's a couple of different ventilation hoses. There is a standard one that goes in here, but this one's much bigger, and I've also added another one here that provides crankcase ventilation to reduce pressure inside the engine, and they feed here into this multi-chambered oil catch can, which drains back into the sump. So it has a one-way valve in the drain so that crankcase pressure doesn't force air or pressure up into the can and then blow stuff out the top. So it drains back in to the sump once the engine's been turned off. And here is my rather large water-to-air intercooler. Yes, it has boost inside. All right, we're in the driver's seat. Let's start her up. Put on the clutch, neutral, make sure the battery's on, ignition on, all the fans are turning on. See the dash start up, and let's just press the button, see what happens. Okay, if you look at the dash, I've got a battery indicator here. I've got a lambda indicator here. It takes a few seconds for that to come to heat up and then provide a value. So there you go. So it's sitting on 0.82 lambda at the moment, and that's controlled by the Haltech ECU to keep the mixture correct. And the car runs E85. And I've got a coolant temperature here, and I've also got an air temperature here. There's a lap timer here, but I don't use that. I actually have an old Android phone that I sit up here that does the lap times. Let's give it a rev. Oh yeah, baby. You've probably noticed by now that I'm not a professional race car builder. I'm just a novice. I've taught myself. I've learnt from a lot of failures. Seriously, a lot of failures. But you do learn when you make mistakes. But I have a lot of fun out on the track. And now I'm going to show you a lap of our Eastern Creek circuit, which is now called Sydney Motorsport Park. Have fun.